Hi, my name's Mary Grundler, and today I'm going to be listening to Madison's speech.
Hello, my name is Madison Grundler, and today I'm going to be presenting a speech called Lying and Deception. Have you ever been lied to or led to believe something that ended up not being true? Well, if you have, that is something that we know as lying and deception. According to Joseph DeVito's book, Interpersonal Messages, deception is the act of sending messages with the intention of giving another person information you believe to be false. In an article, Real Lies, White Lies, and Gray Lies, by Aaron Bryant, I discovered that whether we know it or not, we are lied to and deceived every day. At home, at school, at work, with people we know, and with people we don't know. In this speech, I'm going to explain to you a bit more what exactly deception is and some tips on spotting it. I found that deception was very interesting the very first time I read about it. It was hard to believe that there were so many different types and that it can sometimes be viewed positively. With this, I was able to do some research on a school database where I found many articles in peer-reviewed journals. I read into many of these articles to further my knowledge and understanding on deception and lying. First, I would like to give you the types of deception and lying, and then I would like to give you some behaviors that go along with them. And third, when and how lying is acceptable. Now that I have previewed my speech, I will first begin with the types of lying and deception. Type 1 is pro-social deception. In Joseph DeVito's book, he said pro-social deception is designed to benefit the person being lied to or lied about. He says this is done to give more confidence to the person. In a study done on children by Susan McGinley of the University of Arizona, she said that ages 6 to 8 used pro-social deception 80% of the time, and ages 9 to 11 used it 87% of the time. The second type is self-enhancement deception, which is very common, and it is used when presenting yourself as being younger or having a better job on social network. In McGinley's study again, she said that 6 to 8 ages did this 10% of the time, and 9 to 11 did this 26% of the time. The third type is antisocial. DeVito says this is designated to hurt people. For example, spreading rumors. In McGinley's study, she said that ages 6 to 8 only did this 7% of the time, and ages 9 to 11 did this 15% of the time. With age, we can see that the percentage of lying increases. Now that I have given you the types of lying, I will now give you some behaviors that accompany them. The first behavior is liars hold back. Bella DePaulo of University of Virginia says that liars tend to hold back. They speak slower, maybe to monitor what they are saying, and they take longer to answer questions, and they are also less elaborate and give less information. We see this in many things today, especially in movies and on TV, and one show in particular that shows me this is Law & Order SVU. On this show, we often see individuals lie about the crime they have committed. They often give less information and less elaboration on it, and they have many inconsistencies in their stories. Next, we see that liars sometimes are very tense. Again, according to DePaulo, liars become tense. They tend to raise their voice and have higher pitched tones, and they have excessive body movement. According to Greg McCreary, former FBI criminal profiler, he can tell when someone is lying by their pitch or mannerisms. He says his strategy in identifying this is listening to the person's regular patterns. He likes to ask them easy, typical questions and listens to these patterns more, and then ends up asking them more challenging questions to catch them lying. The third behavior is liars make less sense. DePaulo says that liars make less sense when in the act. They are inconsistent in their messages, and they have many discrepancies. This behavior is often seen in young kids. When they are lying, they often mix things up and say things which they say that they take back. They are very inconsistent with their stories, and that is when they get caught in the act of lying. Now that I have discussed some behaviors that go along with lying, I will discuss when it is acceptable to lie. The majority of the time, lying is viewed as negative or unethical, but there is a time when it is acceptable. Philosopher Cecilia Bach made a process that would test if a lie was okay and was able to be justified. She says this test of publicity is to ask which lies, if any, would survive the appeal for justification to reasonable persons. She says in order for it to be okay to lie, we must first inspect our conscience and ask whether the lie is justified. Then we are to ask ethical, knowledgeable friends that we know on what they think about the lie. And finally, we are supposed to ask people from the public what they think. She also says, ask yourself, are there truthful alternatives to using a lie to deal with a particular problem? What moral justifications are there for telling this lie? And what would a public jury of people say to this lie? Now that I have discussed all of my main points, I would like to give you a small summary of what we learned. First, we started with discussing some types of lying and deception. We have pro-social deception, self-enhancement deception, and then we finally have antisocial deception. Next, we discussed the behaviors that accompany these. Liars hold back, they are tense, and they make less sense. As you can see, in this speech, I explained to you what exactly deception is and some tips on spotting it. Now that you know some types of lying, how to spot it, and when it is acceptable to lie, you can go out, find the person with the longest nose, and spot a liar.